So the Oldham Economic Review was commissioned and created in the sort of summer of 2021 at the behest of the then leader of the council, Arooj Shah, who wanted a clear kind of economic strategy for the borough, and very much a strategy that was kind of rooted in finding the right relationship between Oldham and the rest of Greater Manchester, both Manchester as a city centre, but kind of all the surrounding boroughs as well. And we put together essentially a kind of a select committee model, composed of a number of commissioners. Some of those were Oldham based, voluntary sector businesses, public sector, Alan as chair, and some of us from the university and some others from around GMs. And we took evidence from a whole bunch of people, and throughout we were really keen to think of it at the level of Oldham, at the level of Greater Manchester, and at the kind of national level. And how those multi-level governance in the jargon, how do those three things kind of correctly or optimally align in order to kind of think about what's the right sort of policy framework, as well as the right kind of institutional framework to think about kind of Oldham and its place in the world over the next kind of decade or so. And so, yeah, six months of evidence sessions, lots of combing through both borough statistics, GM statistics, national statistics on employment, kind of economic development, all the things you'd imagine. Lots of expert evidence sessions, and then at the end of it, we wrote the report that was published just before the local elections, and which is available now for people to look at and hopefully act on.
The Oldham Opportunity Area was initially a 3-year programme, a funding stream attached to a programme of work, if you like, that sought to equalise opportunity or raise opportunity within the local area. So there were 3 strands of activity. One was raising attainment and doing so most quickly for the most disadvantaged. One was focused specifically on the early years, and the 3rd strand is focused on mental health, well-being and employability, broadly speaking. So I suppose some of what isn't captured in terms of normal school, perhaps. So they've done an enormous amount of activity. They've done a lot of work within the early years specifically. That was obviously a priority 1 for them. They also had done quite a number of interventions sort of aimed at around literacy, particularly literacy in Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4. For the strand 2, raising attainment, done a maths intervention in priority 2, but the bulk of my work was actually situated in priority 3, which is the more holistic, looking at emotional health and well-being, developing whole school approaches to mental health and well-being, looking at reflective supervision for teachers, technical education, interventions, employability and digital strategies as well.
Oldham has assets and strengths, and again, I think when you're trying to think of any long-term future for a place, those are the places to start. Be able to kind of articulate a future for itself, a confident vision of what it wanted to be, based on the assets and the kind of capitals that it had, and to be confident and to sustain a long-term vision for the town and its economy, and to do that in a kind of sensible, pragmatic way, in terms of its relationship with Manchester and with other neighbouring boroughs.
There is a narrative within Oldham that its schools, or a number of its schools, underperform, and it does have a high number of schools that are identified as requires improvement or inadequate by Ofsted. And outcomes are generally low for young people across Oldham. There seem to be a lot of success in a few particular schools, but then a sort of culture of perhaps what might be understood as or articulated as underperformance. Or a key strand of the delivery approach of the sort of projects that were designed and implemented around school improvement focused on whole workforce, or what the programme leads would referred to as whole workforce continuing professional development. So skilling up practitioners in the local area, offering free CPD, offering what was considered to be high quality evidence-informed CPD. And we see that approach pretty much across all of the 3 priority strands, and in most of the projects and programmes of work there is some element, and often it's a core element, of CPD. And what we see in the evaluation is that there has been some impact on how confident practitioners feel in implementing particular tools, for example, in working with particular curricula, in referring children where that might be necessary. So we've got increased confidence, and we've also got a sense of increased knowledge and understanding on the part of practitioners. So that's where the key impact is. But as you might guess from that, there is a key challenge in that we're not seeing that impact at the level of the child in terms of outcomes. Obviously that's muddied by COVID, and we've been in a strange space for the past 2 years where we've not been collecting or councils, local authorities have not been collecting data on young people's outcomes. But we're not seeing that impact at the level of the child or the family. We're seeing the impact at the level of the practitioner. But when the project and the programme is aimed at raising attainment for all children, but particularly the most disadvantaged, that does raise attention, I think. Particularly when you consider the time frame that some of these projects are working to, and that you won't see the impact you want to see potentially for a generation of children.
I think if you're Andy Burnham as Mayor of GM, or you're the leader of Oldham Council, or indeed you're the leader of other towns within Greater Manchester, I think there are things that you can do. I recognise, as all of those people will, that there aren't enough powers or resources at that local or city regional level to do as much of this as you would like. Currently, Andy Burnham is engaged with the Department for Levelling Up and the rest of government, trying to seek more powers over FE, for example, as part of the devolution, the next phase of the devolution process. And I think that's part of the answer for Andy Burnham too, which is, what's your long-term vision for the economy of a city region, and how do the constituent parts play a role in that, whether that's Oldham or Wigan or Ashton or Stockport or wherever. And so I think in fact, that's one of the lessons that Greater Manchester's recent past offers to all of us, which is if you've got a long-term vision and you can stick to it, then you can not only communicate with central government about what powers and resources you want next, you can also communicate to the businesses and people of Greater Manchester about where you think things are going. I think for the Mayor of Greater Manchester, that has to be a vision that includes the right kind of relationship, a positive future for the towns of kind of North Manchester. The Rochdales, the Oldhams, the Berries, that matters.
I think devolution is important, and I think to be able to have, if you want to create a place-based education system within within Oldham or within a city region, I think having the power to be able to make, having devolved powers is an essential part of that, yeah. But I would like to see an education system that comes around a strategy that is holistic and that thinks about children in all the contexts of their development, whether that's public health, whether that's economic strategy, whether that's education in schools. But bring that together in a really considered, holistic, cradle-to-career approach that is responding to what we need here and now. And in Greater Manchester, obviously, we have 10 local authorities, so that might look slightly differently in each of those 10 local authorities, but we brought together under the sort of umbrella of the combined authority to really create something that is new and has the power to do some really interesting, innovative and socially just, equitable things really within education, and to really support those young people, children and young people, in all the contexts of their development.